Hello everybody, it's Eoghan here from the Big Reviewski. Just to let you know that this is an audio-only version of the show. It's just for your lovely, lovely ears. There'll be no accompanying images, so you can just sit back, relax, hit play, and let it play away in the background. And now, on with the show. Hello and welcome to TBR Spotlight from the Big Reviewski, your companion podcast to Loki on Disney+. That's right, Marvel fans, we're back and we're burdened with glorious purpose. My name is Eoghan and I'm so happy to be joined by someone. He's a bit of a mischievous scamp. Oh. He's devious, he's very occasionally charming, thinks of himself as a god on earth and always causes mayhem and chaos wherever he goes. It is, of course, Rory Cashin. Rory, hello. It's lovely to see you.
Thank you for that wondrous introduction. It does seem to be describing Rory on a night out rather than Rory day to day, but I'll take it.
Yeah, we'll get back to those night outs very, very soon, hopefully. But in the meantime, everybody is going to be stuck at home watching their TV because tell us, why are we here today? We're back with another series of TBR Spotlight, focusing on Loki.
Yeah, so every Wednesday for the next 6 Wednesdays, Disney Plus will be dropping a new episode of the first season of Loki. And since we all had such a fun time with Falcon and the Winter Soldier and we all loved WandaVision, it just made sense to want to completely nerd out and lose our minds going down theorizing rabbit holes for the next month and a half. Because you just know from the trailer of this, we're going to be... even the trailer alone was like, what's that? What could that mean? And having watched the first episode, that's exactly what this is. There's a lot of, what? But, I wonder. So we're going to do our best to unravel and guess and research, which basically means going on Wikipedia.
Nice. Great work, everybody. As you said, WandaVision, released back at the start of 2021, was really mysterious. Nobody really knew what to expect, and then it proved to be a huge winner. Falcon and the Winter Soldier was kind of a lot straighter. There was comedy in it, but it was like, we're talking action and kind of quite set in the real world. And to paraphrase the Falcon from that show, I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of the big three, the androids, the aliens, and the wizards in Loki, because as you said, the trailer is just, oh my God, I have no idea what world we're in, what time we're in, what's going on. Are there multiple versions of similar people? So I was wondering, first of all, Loki is obviously a fan favorite. Tom Hiddleston, he's kind of, the character has just changed so much over the past while. And I was thinking, we could do a recap on him, but why don't we just ask the man himself to do it way better than either of us could?
Yeah, because you actually specifically text me before we start watching, like, which one of these things do I need to rewatch is kind of like a bit of homework.
Revision.
And two things. One is the show itself actually does a pretty good job of catching you up completely. But two, as you said, Tom himself can probably do it in a much more succinct manner than either of us could.
Take it away, Tom.
To help get you ready, I'm going to catch you up in just 30 seconds. My dad, Odin, says my brother Thor can be king. I'm jealous. Plus, he's not my real dad, so I get my real dad to kill Odin, but then I save him. Thor's mad anyway. I'll be fine. Cut to Earth. I steal the Tesseract from S.H.I.E.L.D., help the Chitauri invade Earth, and the Avengers stop them, and I go to jail until Thor needs me to help defeat the Dark Elves. Next thing you know, I'm king, but everyone thinks I'm Odin. Our sister Hela shows up. Cue another Thor Loki team up. We beat her. Then Thanos shows up. We don't beat him, and I die. Thanos kills half the universe. The Avengers go back in time to stop him, giving an earlier version of me a chance to grab the Tesseract. Oh, hang on! Okay, that's better. Thanos gets defeated, and the next thing you know, I've got a job offer from some group that calls itself the TVA. And that's it. Find out what happens next by streaming Loki exclusively on Disney+.
He's so good at that. What a professional. I suppose he knows the character inside out, to be fair. He's been playing him for 85 years at this point.
He does, yeah. Like, he does cheat a little bit because he does actually stop time for a few seconds just to get the end of his Loki story out. But I recently took part in a global press conference for Loki, and he actually held Loki lectures during the shoot for anyone who might have questions on the history of the character. So it turns out he is massively versed in this character. Like, he knows ins and outs of every iteration on the screen, and like, why did he wear this particular outfit for this film, but then this one for this one, and so he is just very, very knowledged in his own character, which just like proves how much he loves playing Loki.
You could say he's massively multiversed in this character.
Oh, that's good. I like that. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
We'll take that one.
gonna sit
I'm
on
allowed
that for a
one
while.
per episode. That's the one. Okay, so the episode kicks off. As we said, we're very excited. And we're back in 2012, and Marvel are really getting their money's worth for this, for getting the most out of this scene and this setting, because we've revisited this moment in a number of different films.
Yep.
We see Loki after the massive attack in 2012 on New York. He's been held captive, but then in Avengers Endgame, we know that the Avengers went back in order to basically reset time in order to defeat Thanos. And this is where Loki sees his opportunity. The silver case with the blue Tesseract goes flying across the floor. And then the last thing we see of Loki is, I love that moment. I could just watch that and repeat, just like, vroom, and he disappears back into this kind of this black vortex. And you just hear the echo of Thor saying, "Where's Loki? Where's Loki?" And then we're straight into it at the start of this episode, where he crash lands into the desert in the middle of Mongolia.
Yeah. One thing that hits right away, because I think once he pops into the vortex, that's when we get the opening credit sequence. And the music in this is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's so good. The score in this is incredible. I think it's maybe the best I've heard in the MCU so far, because it stands out so much on its own, because it's so weird. You can almost hear like the theremins and stuff in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, then he pops up in Mongolia and he tries to do 2012 Loki, where he's like, "You're all my subjects," and blah, blah, blah. And they're in Mongolia and they're like, "Who dis though?" And they have no idea who he is. And we get the TVA appear. And that's our introduction to them. And they're like, "You super shouldn't be here." And by here, I mean here in time, as in this is not for you. Which automatically like introduces a million questions to everything else in the MCU. Because then I'm like, if he shouldn't be there, then should the rest of what happened in 2012 not be there? Or is it just Loki who shouldn't be? So, yeah, in the same way that there was that moment in Endgame where they're trying to explain time travel, the rules of time travel.
Yeah.
I love that through this episode, they're both trying to explain the rules of the TVA and time travel while also going, you know what, maybe don't think about it too much, because your head will implode.
Yeah.
So he's snatched and brought to the TVA headquarters, which is quite an interesting setting.
Yeah, like this opening, we get to the setting because it reminded me of something in particular from when I was growing up. My granny had bought me a set of pajamas, I think, like 100 years ago, and it had this really brown. There was just like a mixture of browns and dull oranges. And as soon as I saw the setting of the TVA, this kind of 1970s feel. By the way, I'm not from the 1970s. It's okay, as far as I know, anyway.
I mean,
yeah, I mean, it's hard to tell. But so that immediate like flashbacks to my granny looking at this and that kind of old world of how the kind of the design they're looking for that. But just on that opening in Mongolia, I love. And like we obviously start to get informed as we go through the episode, and it's set up brilliantly in terms of how they're feeding us this brand new element of the universe and of the world. But like I actually made a list of lots of new words, and I'm hoping we can put together maybe some kind of glossary of all the new terms that are in there. But the first ones that we get in this opening sequence, like they immediately come out and it's variant identified, and we've seen variant in the trailer as well, like on the back of some of the jumpsuits and stuff. And then there's been a sequence violation. They say we're from the Time Variance Authority, and your head is just spinning as to what all of these things actually are. But no, I thought it was brilliant because I do love Tom Hiddleston going back into that, as you said, 2012 mindset of like, he thinks he is the universe's greatest being at this point in time. And as we know from from Avengers, from that particular year anyway, he's just a puny god. And he really, like, these guys who come to apprehend him, they're not like super beings or anything. These are just like worker bees, like,
Yeah.
doing their job, and they've got no time for his shit, basically, which is very funny. And then I loved the playing around with the camera work, the slow motion whenever he gets hit in the face, and you expect it's like, oh, they're doing slow motion, that, and then it pans back and you're like, oh no, they're still moving in real time, and he's just moving in slow motion, experiencing every single tiny bit of pain. So no, it feels like this is an opportunity for Marvel to have a lot of fun with just messing around with, well, our heads mainly, but also just little elements like that, as you said, in terms of when are we, and what the hell is actually going on here.
Yeah, like as you said, he like Loki's power is in his intellect and always thinking he's the smartest person in the room. And more often than not, he is. He can't back that up hugely with physical prowess, which is how he had to kind of develop that army for the 2012 Avengers to be able to fight properly against the Avengers. But it is fantastic seeing someone who is as smart as him being so completely out of his depth in with the TVA and just being dropped into the middle. And he's like, I got this. And every time he thinks he does, it's like, you absolutely don't. You have no idea what's going on. And seeing someone just scrambling mentally to keep up, and it being so difficult for him because he relies so much on his charm, and everyone around him's like, that's not going to work here.
Well, the fact that they actually, because we get into the TVA then, but the fact in his trial sequence, after he goes through the entire rigmarole of being stripped naked of his fine Asgardian leather with a brilliant robot, like with that face, is just amazing on it.
Also, that was very clever of Marvel to be like, Tom Hiddleston's naked in this,
Oh yes. Are they playing to a certain group of fans out there? Very, very
pretty
possibly.
thirsty to put it in the trailer, but
But so then he goes through that, and then all the admin that he has to go through, and sign this piece of paper, which they use in the trailer as well, which was very funny. Of everything you've ever said, but as you said, like they've no time for what he's actually, when he starts to do his big booming voice and his hand gestures, and then just everybody in the courtroom begins to laugh at him, which is just brilliantly played, because we've got Gugu and Bathu Raw popping up there, and it feels like she's going to be one of the key characters potentially throughout this as well, kind of acting as the judge of this particular trial.
Yeah, so she seems to be you can see they're slowly putting together the hierarchy within the TVA. So Gugu and Bathu Raw is playing, I've written her name down, Ravonna Renslayer, which is a great name.
Super name.
And she seems to be the kind of in between, not middle management, but like upper middle management. Between the heads of departments in the TVA, and then the three kind of time lords, the lizards,
the timekeepers, the space lizards he calls them.
So they haven't really gone too deep on the extent of that yet, but you can see again Loki is just bewildered to discover that none of his power, nothing he thought was powerful, is of any consequence here. Because he's like in that same courtroom scene, he's like, "There, I've got magic powers," and everyone's like, "No, not here, you don't." But it is interesting to introduce Renslayer's character because she's pretty big in the MCU,
right?
But from her introduction here, it looks like they've given her a completely different story. So I had a look, and it says online that this is actually going to be her origins rather than a brand new origin story for her, rather than what people might know from the comic books, because she is tied directly to a huge character in the MCU called Kang the Conqueror, who is basically
he sounds like a nice guy.
Yeah, there's nothing to worry about there.
Charmer.
He's going to be played by Jonathan Majors, who was in Lovecraft Country. He's going to be playing him in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, but Kang the Conqueror is the next step up from Thanos in terms of the MCU. He's like worse again. And Renslayer is sometimes his girlfriend and sometimes his arch nemesis. So it'll be curious now to see whether if this is like her path, how we see her being brought in to the MCU. But in this, she is impatient, an impatient judge. Just like, do you plead guilty? Yes or no? It was so bureaucratic. And so funny. It was reminding me of like Terry Gilliam's Brazil. It was reminding me of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It was reminding me a bit of Wes Anderson's stuff. If Wes Anderson ever did like sci-fi, you could see it playing out, like where you see Loki like walking through the queue with no one else on the queue, and he's like, "Are you actually going to make me walk all the way over?" So there's just a lot of the start of it is a lot funnier than I was anticipating, but in a weirder way than I was guessing, and then we get to this scene where it's like, you're bad and you should probably be killed.
Yeah, like one of the reasons you might be getting those Wes Anderson vibes as well is because Owen Wilson is here as well. And now, again, whenever he popped up in the trailer, because prior to that, like, there's an element of, it's always, how much do I want to know before going in? Or do I just want to, as you said, like, this is much funnier in a weirder way than we were even expecting. And I remember whenever I saw, like, Owen Wilson pop up in the trailer, and I was like, oh, like, that's I think I just got whiplash, like, of Owen Wilson joining the MCU.
I'm Agent Mobius, by the way.
Are you taking me somewhere to kill me?
No, that's where you just were. I'm taking you someplace to talk.
Well, I don't like to talk.
But you do like to lie, which you just did. Because we both know you love to talk. Talky.
How long have you been here?
I don't know, it's hard to say. Time passes differently here in the TVA.
What does that mean?
You'll catch up.
So you're part of the TVA's courageous and dedicated workforce.
Yes.
You were created by the Timekeepers.
Yep.
To protect the sacred timeline.
Correct. Is that funny?
The idea that your little club decides the fate of trillions of people across all of existence at the behest of 3 space lizards, yes, it's funny. It's absurd.
I thought you didn't like to talk.
But it's brilliantly done. We're obviously introduced to his character, and he's clearly on the hunt for some mysterious figure. Like hundreds of years ago, you got this little French kid who's eating, I think it's like kablooey chewing gum, or something, or bubble gum, whatever it happens to be. And we're getting that little bit of backstory of like, there's another team lost of the Minutemen, and you're like, okay, something's going on here. And then the ominous kind of pointing at the stained glass window, but then he rushes back into, you can't even call it present day because we've no idea when we are, but he rushes back just to get there in time for this court case, and obviously steps in instead of Loki going to trial and then being accused of the trial and then punishable by death, essentially. He's like, no, everybody hold on a second, I've just got one idea. And we go into this interrogation scene, which, as you said, it kind of sets it up. And this is a brilliant way of getting a flashback of, previously on Loki, essentially, where they do this rundown of his greatest hits that we as an audience are aware of, and elements that we know haven't happened to this version of Loki yet. But it obviously, it's new to him as he watches elements like Frigga, like Rene Russo, his mother, being murdered, and it's because of his actions and all this kind of stuff as well. And this is one of the great things, because Tom Hiddleston is obviously going to be the star of the show here, and there's going to be other actors who have brilliant new characters like Owen Wilson and Gugu Mbatha-Raw. But Tom Hiddleston does that brilliant thing with Loki throughout, where it's, okay, he can play the big baddie, he can play the comic relief, and then whenever he changes to just like, oh no, he's completely emotionally broken. And there were a couple of moments like that in this where it affects him in a way, and you're like, oh, Jesus, it's another amazing actor getting to show off what they can do in these kind of focused episodes as well. But yeah, what did you make of the interrogation scene and this introduction of Agent Mobius?
Yeah, like I was the same thinking that, like, how good a match could Owen Wilson be? Because you're automatically thinking of like, oh wow, like his character in every other film he's ever played. And even off the back of the first episode, I was like, oh, he's this season's Catherine Hahn.
Yeah.
He's the standout. He's the one here, like, oh, he's gonna steal every single scene he's in. And again, like his scenes with Loki, he's always kind of underplaying his own intelligence. He's like, go on, I'm just gonna keep letting you talk yourself into a corner, and then I'll spring my little bear trap, and you'll realize, yeah, I knew all this. Like, I know everything about you. I know more about you than you know. And it's just, yeah, showing him like Frigga's death, so sad. The destruction of Asgard, his own death at the hands of Thanos.
Yeah, that one too.
And then I loved that it was shown on like 35 millimeter film reel.
Yeah,
but on a super futuristic projector machine.
But this is amazing about the TVA. Yeah, all those kind of mixes.
Weird. Yeah, because they have like Miss Minutes, who's this weirdly interactive.
Oh yeah,
holographic kind
cartoon
of sentient
character,
artificial cartoon character, but also all of their files are in like 1970s police movie files.
Yeah, with coffee stains on them, coffee cup stains on them. Yeah,
surely you could just turn to Miss Minutes and ask her to just tell you what it like. She must be some kind of future version of Alexa or Siri or something.
Yeah,
but they still have all the physical files. It's just everything's so out of time. It's fantastic.
Yeah, no, all of that design and again the fun that they would have had in planning all of that and creating it all. It's just that mixture of the most analog like beeps and bloops and all the old sci-fi that you know from like old sci-fi TV shows, and then coupled with 2021 Marvel technology and visual effects where they can just make it look absolutely incredible. So no, I love that. And Miss Minutes, because I remember, I think whenever she popped up in a nerdy trailer or poster, I remember you had been tweeting about how excited you were to see her anyway. And she has this brilliant voice. Must find out who the voice actor is, but it just sounds like, it's Dolly Parton or something. Like, do you know what I mean? It's that kind of southern drawl, but it's brilliantly done. It's so happy and chirpy.
Yeah, I actually forgot her name as well, but Tara Strong. I wrote it down, but she is a very famous voice actress. She's done like the Powerpuff Girls and Rick and Morty and Teen Titans Go. She does a lot of that kind of sounding character.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's fun. Again, she's going to be there'll be t-shirts of her 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, all in your wardrobe basically. You'll have them all ordered.
Yeah.
With the flashback, it also, as you said, showing Loki all of these key moments throughout his life, but also really they kind of like Mobius doesn't really let it go as well. He's like, you like murdering people. Like, look at this guy's eyeballs.
Genius.
And yeah, no, it's brilliant. And it really pushes. It felt like a therapy. Well, it was a therapy session as well, where it was like, no, you keep killing people
and you enjoy it.
And you enjoy it as well, and really pushing it, and you're kind of like, it's kind of funny. It reminded me of that scene in Good Will Hunting, whenever Robin Williams and Matt Damon are both like, it's not your fault. And he's like, yeah, man, I know it's not my fault. It's like, it's not your fault. He's like,
except here it is your fault.
It is your fault.
Is absolutely
it's definitely your fault. But no, I thought that was really well done.
No, yeah, it was a genius moment because you do forget, because Hiddleston is so charming and because Loki is so likable, that he is actually a mass murderer. He's done some horrific things, but by the time Ragnarok comes around, you're like, lol, Loki, haha. So it actually was a very clever move of the writers to be like, no, he's done awful things. You're not really supposed to like Loki. Like, there is that one scene where he takes the eyeball from the guy in Germany and he's looking around the crowd and he's got a maniacal grin on because he's causing so much terror. And you're like, oh yeah. Yeah, not cool.
Remember this now.
Not cool. So yeah, that was a genius moment. Just and Wilson really hammers that scene home. He's so good in it, where he's like, "Oh, I thought you wanted to like help these people like achieve freedom and enjoy their lives, and here you are, absolutely terrorizing them for what reason?" And he doesn't have an answer.
Yeah, Owen Wilson again, just in perfect Owen Wilson drawl. And like they have, I know we said drawl for Miss Minutes as well, but the delivery of his lines as well. I love the moment. He's like, "Yeah, you're a big metaphor guy. I love that. Makes you sound super smart."
And
It's
he's
like
like,
I
I am
am
smart.
smart.
It's
It's
like,
like I know.
I know.
Yeah, it's so playfully like undercutting, like in the nicest possible way. And then we also get it's not just flashback to stuff that we've seen before. There's also the DB Cooper sequence in the middle of it
Yes.
all, which we had seen in the trailer. We're like, oh, is this Mad Men kind of feel, and what's going on here? So it was lovely to get that kind of insight into the rest of Loki's life, because I think he said he was messing around with Heimdall and Thor at that point.
So, right. 2 questions. Like, is the story of DB Cooper, is that like well known?
That's a real story where there was
yeah, but like would
massive
people
robbery.
would people who like, not us, because obviously we're so super smart and super like super multiversed in the story of DB Cooper, but would an average viewer know who DB Cooper was?
Well, I'm aware of the name, and then I was like, oh yeah, I remember there was a thing about a mystery where he did a bank robbery, and then a type of robbery, and just disappeared essentially, and people are still looking for his money and his treasure that's out there and all this kind of stuff. So I had very vague awareness of it, but I don't think, maybe in America potentially it's more of a kind of an urban legend that's a bit more present in people's minds. But whatever it was, it gave them the excuse to go full Mad Men anyway in their design and their storytelling.
So that was one. So yeah. So the other one was, did Heimdall, was he just on like waiting to
I think
collect
so.
him midair?
Yeah.
So he was
Yeah.
just down with Loki stealing money from a hijacked plane?
Yeah, so the impression I got from like a throwaway line where Loki says, "Oh, that was a bet with Thor and Heimdall that I could do it," basically.
Oh.
And whatever it was, like, I don't know, was it like to do this massive robbery and then escape essentially? So it feels like it was just whenever they were back, they were younger, they were messing around. He's the god of mischief. It's like, you know what, feckin', I'm just gonna have a bit of crack here on planet Earth and then go back to the boys, like back up in Asgard, and then like, because they obviously have absolutely zero use for the money.
Yeah.
but yeah, no, that was the impression I got at that point anyway. So no, it was lovely to get to all those elements. The other thing that's happened
Sorry, I just realized there, you're like, back when he was younger and foolish and stuff, it's like, it was 40 years ago and he's a couple of thousand years old. So to us, it's like me excusing something I did yesterday and saying foolish youth.
Well, when you put it like that. But yeah, at this moment as well, we're also getting a lot of because Kate Herron, who is the director of this series, and she's done a little bit of sex education. I was having a look at her CV and stuff. So, but this is still relatively brand new for her and her line of work, apart from the shorts and different things that she's worked on previously. But already, I love her style and the way that she's doing. But a lot of visual fun with the time twister, I think they call it. That's kind of this little device that keeps looping Loki back around and around again that Owen Wilson used, and then whenever the escape begins to happen, whenever he starts to use it on the guard that has apprehended him in the first place. But no, I thought that was a lot of fun doing that as well.
Yeah, the guard, she does not like Loki. She is an instant dislike to Loki, an instant distrust, which is entirely fair because it's warranted, as it turns out, because he turns the time twister back on her, and then kind of like a boy like pulling the legs off a spider. He's like,
yeah, it's
like he's sending it through time over and over again. Like, yeah, I didn't like that at all. And so he tries to like make a break for it, and everyone's kind of running around, even though they're all of the knowledge that he can't really go anywhere because he doesn't have the ability to do it. And then he corners that poor nice office man,
Casey.
Yeah. And he's like,
he was amazing.
He's like, give me the Tesseract. Give me, I'm getting out of here. And he's like, yeah, okay, it's here. And he just hands it to him. Whatever. But then when he opens like the stuff drawer, because every office obviously has a stuff drawer, inside is all of the Infinity Stones and also a few other parallel universes, versions of the Infinity Stones. And it's at that exact moment Loki's like, oh, crap. Nothing here is of consequence at all.
Because even as a viewer, I was like, oh, That's like literally whatever all 23, 24 Marvel films have been building up to the moment where they're struggling and people are dying and heroes and loved ones are dying in order to get these Infinity Stones. It's like, oh, right. Are you looking for Infinity Stones? I think I got to draw them back here somewhere.
Yeah, people
And it just,
like use them as paperweights.
yeah, that's right. And actually, there's a lovely moment in the end credits where it's showing those 70s files, and someone has used, I think maybe it's a Soul Stone, potentially like as a makeshift paperweight. But yeah, that was brilliant. I love his interaction with Casey when he's like, "Do it, or I'll gut you like a fish," and he's like, "What's a fish?" Just again, because they have the concept of like what it's like to work in an office from the 1970s, but they don't have any idea of what a fish actually is. There's also one other in the midst of all this in the interrogation, and part of the realization, as you said, that that's the moment whenever Loki kind of everything just clicks into place and he goes, oh no, this is real, this is bigger, because he's kind of fobbing it off as now this is an illusion, or I'm going to be able to get away. And I do like there is an element of like, well, he is smart enough to find a way of sorts out
Yeah.
of there, but it's still the entire situation is maybe just a little bit above him and beyond him. But Owen Wilson has another line, and I wrote it down because it was like, oh God, because if somebody said it to you, you'd feel terrible. And he says, you exist just so others can achieve the best versions of themselves. And that feels like one of the most cutting lines throughout any of like the Marvel kind of films or TV shows, because it's a pretty shitty thing to hear when you find out, what, I'm not the protagonist of my own life. And it's just so that the Avengers, and then you're looking at that iconic shot of the Avengers whenever Loki comes around and Hawkeye has the arrow, the bow drawn in his face, and it's all there. And I kind of find myself going, oh, you flipping goody two-shoes, you pricks. Like, leave him alone, will you?
Except he does, tear people's eyes out and have...
Oh, yeah. But then I immediately came around and I realized, no, I too am a good person and I am on the side of the Avengers.
Is that where you landed? Interesting.
Yeah, that's what it was.
No, yeah, like it is... It is brilliant in the kind of the section of Loki. Like, it's just... Especially because Hiddleston has to go back and play... He has to unlearn like nearly 10 years worth of Loki lessons to start over again as more or less like Loki at the peak of his badness. It's really, really interesting what they decided to do. I am like, from that one episode, it was like, okay, I'm enjoying this as like a deep dive on him, but there is like the background mystery of who's killing the Minutemen. Why are they snatching all the kind of time erasing bomb things? Remember, because you're putting them down?
The resetters.
Thank you.
Listen, Rory, you're welcome.
You know them words. Why are they snatching them? Why is Owen Wilson... Why does he think like Loki's the one who can help find whoever this person is? And then we find out why. And even though at the end I was like, oh yeah, duh, of course, that's exactly who it is. It was still a really good reveal.
Well, this is the thing, because it's that killer line when he says, it's you, we're hunting this rogue variant. It's you. And I was like, okay, yeah, okay. Well, I can see how that makes sense. I see how they could make that work in terms of, okay, there's a rogue, maybe slightly more evil version or variant of Loki out there doing that. And of course, how are you going to catch that guy? Well, you're going to get inside his head by literally using this version of Loki to help you track him down. But then at the same time, it was kind of like, okay, they've gone Sith Lord. You never really see the face. You've got the hooded cloak, and you get that flashback, or not flashback again, because they're probably not even flashbacks. They're probably all happening.
No, listen,
they're probably happening right now as we're talking about it.
We can't go down that rabbit hole of flashbacks and fast forwards, because it seems to all be happening. Like, as you said earlier on, he rushed back from hundreds of years ago to get to the court case. And I was like, could he just not have gone there at any time? Because it's always happening, but it's also out of time completely. So like, again, you have to just push it out of your mind. So we went back to... Looper is, don't think about it.
Oh yeah, okay, that's the easiest thing to do. So goes back to Oklahoma, and we don't see this person fully, but we see them a pretty old school way of taking people out. I thought they were going to go like with whatever. Well, it was like, no, I've just stuck a load of oil in the ground. I've set it on fire, and there you go. You're all burning, basically. But actually, I must go back and see, because whenever they put up like a new location and a new time, a new year, and it says Oklahoma 1858, I noticed there's a line underneath with a little dot on it, and I'm wondering, does that dot ever move? No, it may not. I might have to go back and check on the other ones in that episode, like whenever it shows us Owen Wilson in France and Aix-en-Provence, and it's like, I wonder, does that dot move around? Probably not, but we'll see what the crack is. But yeah, so we get this setup. There's another potential baddie out there. So are we going to go for a swing and a miss, or a swing and a hit, or have we any idea of who this potentially could be, or are we just like, no, it's Loki?
Well, they said it's Loki, so I'm going to assume it's
yeah,
I'm going to assume it's Loki. I think it's interesting they didn't show us that it was Loki even after they said it's Loki. So my first thought was maybe it was like Frost giant Loki.
Right, okay.
You know, like,
yeah,
he didn't go down he leaned into his actual heritage. That was my first thought, but then I was like, no, they probably still show that, because it'll just be Tom in like a bit of blue makeup or whatever. So whatever it is, it isn't an obvious choice. But I do have already a big theory.
Yes.
Who's
the power broker?
I don't. Will I make a big swing this early, or will I wait for a second episode?
No, go for it. Go for it. 100%. That's what we're here for.
Okay, I think
that's what I'm here for. Let me get my popcorn first. Go.
I think, because there's a few lines throughout the episode where Mobius is talking about the time lizards and everything being in its place, and this is just how it is. And he kind of seems, like a gruff 70s detective who's just like, this is just the job. You just got to do the job. But much like a gruff 70s detective who starts taking a cut on the side because he feels he's not making, or he's not being appreciated enough, I suspect that Mobius is actually using the Lokis to take down the Time Lizards people so he can break free of his job in the TVA, because he doesn't want to do it anymore.
he just doesn't want his office job anymore.
He wants a different life for himself, and I suspect that he is using the potential Lokis to bring them down.
So whenever you said earlier on the episode that Owen Wilson is the Catherine Hahn of this, like right down to potentially the detail of like, it was Mobius all along, and we get some amazing tune of like Agatha all along essentially throughout. I don't know if I could. I'm trying to think of times Owen Wilson has actually played a bad guy in his career, and there's nothing really coming to mind.
That's what would make it brilliant.
Yeah, no, I mean, geez. It would be a brilliant twist on it. In terms of the writer and I know we mentioned the director Kate Herron on this, and the director, the writer Michael Waldron as well, because having a look at his work like as a screenwriter, and as you said, like his background as well is Rick and Morty, and it feeds into just the tone and the feel of this. But also, I see he's the writer on Doctor Strange. In the Multiverse of Madness as well, which is obviously going to be coming up, which is really interesting that they've hired the same writer, because it feels like they're usually, no, this is your project, you stick with this, you're limited to this amount of information, we'll feed you whatever else you need to know. You're on a need to write basis, basically. But interesting now that they've linked him between those two projects, and I wonder will we start to see that kind of feed in here as well.
Yeah, because there is, like, they talk about nexus points a lot in this, and nexus points is, times in history when things have gone off the path, the predetermined path, and they have to go back and fix them, which everyone was consumed with the theory that there was a nexus point that took place in WandaVision. And we already know that Wanda shows up in Doctor Strange 2. So you would have thought the writer for WandaVision would have gone directly into the writing Doctor Strange 2. So maybe there is a particular because Doctor Strange 2 is Multiverse of Madness, and that is exactly what this show is about. So it does make sense in that regard that maybe something happens over the course of this that Doctor Strange is the only one who can fix it in reality. But like, then why would that be if the TVA can fix it? So I listen, episode 1, we can't go down this, we can't do this. But it is interesting that the writer was the Rick and Morty guy. Now I don't know which episodes he did for the series. I'll probably have to go back and check it. But there is a specific episode of Rick and Morty where Rick goes to, it's called the Citadel of Ricks, and it's where all the Ricks in the world live. And he's brought there by the Rick police because there is a rogue Rick who is going around killing other Ricks. And I was like, that's a lot like the plot of Loki. So like I don't know if he specifically wrote that one episode, but there's a lot of DNA in common between Rick and Morty and Loki. Just watching it, like, obviously because it's funny sci-fi mystery, but that particular aspect I was like, huh.
No, well, I'm 100% here for that. Like, you go back and you find out that's the only episode. It's like, do you see what you did there, Michael? Do that over here as well. Some other, like, just little nuggets and details that they throw in. Changing the Marvel logo at the very start into that kind of that green was just a very simple but really nice touch as well. A couple of brilliant one-liners from Loki as well, whenever he's just basically slagging off the Avengers. I've had it up to here with, I've had enough of idiots in armored suits for one day whenever he sees the Minutemen at the start as well. But he also, there's another brilliant line that he says in the courtroom, and they're like, oh, something like, how did you know it wasn't the real Tony Stark? But he's like, oh, I was wearing enough cologne for two Tony Stark, so you don't mistake the smell of the cologne of two Tony Stark. So it's just peppered throughout. It just feels like, again, I know we're massive Marvel fans anyway, and you know, we, as we said, loved WandaVision, and then, you know, we fell in and out of love with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, some absolutely brilliant moments, but it feels like this is off to a really strong start. And as we said, a lot of fun, but also just setting up like a lot of questions as well. So looking forward to because there are 5 more episodes in this series, but I think it has been greenlit that there's a second series of Loki as well, which they haven't done, as far as I'm aware, with WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier yet.
No, they have already confirmed the second season's in pre-production, but the end credits for this episode, obviously we're not fools and we would sit through them just to make sure that there is or isn't, in this case, a mid-credit sequence. But it is interesting watching the end credits in this because there's huge gaps as the titles come up. Did you notice this?
The way the letters are all spread out and stuff?
No. So like say Tom Hiddleston's name would come up, and then like they come up in a timely manner, like Gugu and Batu Ra, other characters' names, and then be a gap for a couple of seconds, and then it'd be like Andon Wilson, and then a gap, and then another name. So I'm like, someone's coming, someone famous is going to arrive, and their name is going right in there. And instead of you shortening the end credits to fill that out, you've left these gaps on purpose for us to go, so who's on the way? And I think I counted 4. So there's at least 4 big actors to join the closing credits for the future episodes. So we'll see how they get filled in as the weeks go on.
Yeah, Don Cheadle is back again. He's just appearing in all the TV shows. Just,
why not?
Don Cheadle, you're available again. Let's go for it. Actually, one of the interesting points, because it shows us Loki Laufeyson's file, the kind of the mugshot and stuff as well. But I saw that one of the talking points from one of the earlier trailers was his gender. Basically, it says gender fluid. So there was a lot of excitement around the fact it's like, well, no. This is brilliant to have Marvel introduce this kind of character, not male, not female, just like gender fluid essentially as well. So, and again, I know we talked a lot about how Falcon and the Winter Soldier, especially the writers, were focusing on the real world events of like the issues for Black people in America and all around the world, and really powerful commentary. And as you wrote and discussed at the time, one of the most powerful scenes probably in any Marvel kind of property. whenever they were talking about those specific issues as well. But it's brilliant to see that they're introducing this. It's not quite Bucky making a passing reference to what was it, Tigers or something as well in the previous series, where people were losing their minds about his potential Tinder profile. But great to see that in Tom Hiddleston's file in those end credits as well.
Yeah, because the character of Loki in the comic books, because he is capable of just manipulating his own body into whatever.
Yeah.
Like over the course of history, like it has been both male and female, so it does make a certain amount of sense that you wouldn't assign a gender to it, because he hasn't always been male throughout the history of the multiverse of the characters. So yeah, like it is a nice nod to that. Whether it's just like a tiny detail for, as fans have already kind of lost their minds over, going, oh my god, yay, they've announced he's the non-binary and hooray. Whether they'll actually dive into it, like, because they did kind of skirt around Bucky and his Tinder profile in the way that it was never mentioned again.
Yeah.
But it will be curious to see if the next episodes will pick up that at all.
Brilliant. Well, I think we've pretty much covered everything. So it's going to be, as they said, Wednesdays are the new Fridays. We're going to be looking forward to episode 2 next week. As we said here on TBR Spotlight, we're going to be watching it first thing in the morning.
Yes.
Getting up nice and early to watch the show. And then, basically have our discussion on each episode. So you can find us on Twitter at Big Reviewski, or you can find us on JOE.ie as well. We'll have loads of cool articles up there. There are loads of episodes. As we said, we've already focused on Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We've just finished, I can still smell the petrol fumes. We've just finished our recap of the Fast and Furious films ahead of the brand new release of F9. But now all our focus is on Loki. And Rory, are you excited about the rest of the series?
Yeah, like they've set up the universe so perfectly. They've introduced so many interesting characters, and they have given us a great hook at the end for what's in store. And I've got my big swing theory already in place. So
already sorted.
Yeah. I'm already annoyed there's only 6 episodes. So
I know.
But we've got a season 2 to look forward to as well. But before we get anywhere near that, we'll be back next Wednesday. And I am going to annoy you nonstop on WhatsApp between now and then with more and more theories.
No, I can't wait. Listen, now that's what I live for. Now, before we go, I will need you to sign this document that contains every single word that you said throughout the episode, if that's okay, please. It's part of the admin for TBR Spotlight.
No, yeah, that's totally fine. Will it include this bit I'm saying right now?
Yeah, I'm going to have to. I think I'm nearly out of paper and ink, so I'm going to have to. Who do I chat to about that? But no, Rory, thank you forever for your big swings. Thank you to Sound Paul on sound, and thank you to everybody for listening and for subscribing to the show. I guess we'll see. What do they say at the end of the TV? It's like, let us know how we're doing. I can't do your voice. My God, I'll find a recording of it and stick that in instead. Maybe let us know how. No, I just won't do it. Just watch the real thing. Just watch Loki. Yep. Okay, see ya. Bye.
Bye.
Let us know how.
No,
I haven't got it.
No,
fine. I'm leaving it.
Good.